Dave Hall, the author of Blackfish, every week over at Canucks Army, our prospect guy over at CA. Dave, how's it going?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. And hey, before we get going, I just want to shout out David Quadrelli for naming me the one guy that would score on an NHL goaltender. Don't act like I didn't see that episode of Family Feud.
No.
I appreciate it.
Okay, good reminder for everybody to go fill out the survey because we don't have enough responses for this week. So fill out the Family Feud survey. But Dave, was I right about that? I've never seen you skate, but you seem like you'd be able to play pretty well.
Well, I mean, I've played most of my life. I've seen you on the ice. I think I'd have a better shot than you. I don't know about Harmon or J-Pat. I haven't seen the clips of them. I know Jacob was voted number one. He's a goalie, so I like to think, hey, maybe we got some content ideas. Maybe this summer we all have to hit the ice. But yeah, I've played hockey most of my life, so I'd like to think that I'd have at least a shot.
Can you stop?
Yes.
Okay, so you're already a better skater than me.
Did you just ask a guy who's played hockey most of his life if he could stop?
Hey, you never know. Hey,
you
don't know what level.
Yeah, I've played hockey most of my life. I can't stop.
There you go.
Not properly. I can stop. Just if I'm going too fast, there's no stopping. Anyways, let's get going here. Dave, Jonathan Lekkerimäki last night, someone in our chat was saying that you pointed out the stick twirl is a big part of his game. Thatcher Demko didn't love that post game.
No.
Oh, did he stick twirl on that? He did stick twirl. What do you think of his game last night? And the stick twirl, it is a regular thing in his game?
Yeah, it's I could go back basically all my clips of his shootouts, and I'd say 8 times out of 10 he does that little pre-twirl. I just want to shout out someone on my Twitter, Intergalactic Potato. He says it's like him clicking the barbecue tongs before they fire at the barbecue. And I love that. So shout out to Potato. That's exactly what it is. It's like it's just a twitch, like he clicks the barbecue tongs before he does a shootout. So yeah, no, his game was unreal. It's so funny because he still plays sub 10 minutes, and look at what he does when he's given the opportunity, right? Like he's just I think Wyatt Art had it perfectly. He's ice cold. That's just what he does. He's an offensive contributor, and that's why I've been harping that he needs to get minutes. When I talk about him wanting to play, like I want him to be in Vancouver. Like that's obviously the game plan here. But for me, if you're not going to use him in a spot where he's going to do stuff like that, what's the point of having him? But I think he's just shown that, and I believe Tocchet even said in his post game that he's got to find more minutes for him, and he's completely right because that's what we get to him. Even in his one goal, the one thing you love about Lekkerimaki is even when he's not scoring goals, he's always trying to find that open spot to get into position to score that goal. Like on his goal last night, you see he cuts through, he finds that he just lurks in the darkness, comes out of nowhere and finds that one open pocket for that split second. And then I believe Harmon even mentioned it already before I came on, but his ability to shoot that off angle as a right-handed shot coming in that angle is just so impressive. So I loved his game. I thought, he's just come as advertised, and he's just got to get more minutes, especially with some injuries happening right now. Even on the power play, I agree he needs to be on that PP1, because even if he's not the one scoring goals, he's constantly moving. He's constantly, making things happen, or at least doing what he can to get in those positions to make things happen. And he moves the puck quick. And I just think at this point, what are we doing not having him up there? They need goals. They need goal scoring, and he's the guy to do that. So,
what are reasonable expectations for him next season in your mind?
Yeah, he's 20. I think it is important to, last night was exciting. We all saw what he can do. It's exciting. I think, there is an expectation that we have to kind of lower the bar a little bit. Like I envision him somewhere in the middle 6. I think he has to be in Vancouver now. I think he has to be put in positions to succeed. The one thing that we know about Lekkerimaki is he's a workhorse in the offseason. So, 2 years ago, I guess it was 3 years ago now, he had a tough post-draft season. Obviously, a bunch of injuries and illness in there. But that summer, he made it, his game plan to come out and have a big summer. He came back guns a-blazing and had a heck of a year as the SHL Rookie of the Year. And so now that he's got a taste in the NHL, he knows he's got to hit the gym. And, if he comes back with a little bit more size, I think that's all he needs to definitely put him in a spot to be in that middle 6, preferably even, second line scorer. Has to be on the power play. So I think expectations should be kept a little bit at bay in terms of, being the go-to guy. But I think you should definitely pencil him in for a spot in Vancouver. And
Dave, let's get some Blackfish highlights. Blackfish, of course, your weekly prospect report over at Canucks Army, the most in-depth prospect report, I'd say, of any team. Yeah, I might be crazy about that, but
I appreciate
I
it.
don't read every other blog that's out there, but I'm pretty sure there's no, Montreal Canadiens blog that's pumping out Blackfish type content. So anyways,
Could be
Blackfish highlights from the week. Max Sasson, his hot streak. Tell us about that.
Yeah, man, I've always been Sasson stan. Yeah, like, if you follow me, you know that I love his game just as an overall complete game. He's always trying. He has a motor that doesn't quit, and he showed off his legs. I don't know if you saw his overtime win the other night, but that's just incredible. He circles inside below his own goal line until he finds the right moment, and he just goes down, beats everyone flat-footed, and goes on a breakaway coast to coast. So I believe as of yesterday, I don't think anyone has played. So they're on a 7-game winning streak. During that 7 games, he has 10 points, which leads all the American League. So he's not only contributing everything that you want to see off the puck, but he's now contributing on the score sheet, which you just love to see. And he's even added penalty kill to his repertoire lately, which is something that he hasn't always done in the past. So now he's doing everything for the team. Him and Archie Baines, they've got this magical duo combination going on right now, and just both of them, there's not single-handedly, because quite a few of them are contributing, but those two are just on another level right now. So I'm not shocked that they picked Aatu for various reasons. One being that he's the upside guy. He's the kid that they're probably penciling in to maybe make the team. But I thought Max Sasson definitely put up a pretty good argument to be the guy to come up over Aatu in terms of the center call up.
Anything else from Blackfish that you wanted to highlight?
Not really. Other than so obviously WHL, CHL playoffs start this week. So if you go to Blackfish, I let you know when all those start dates are. But the WHL did just sign a thing with Victory, and so all their games are streamed for free right now. So just if you want to catch any Sori Minio, Parker Alcos games, they're all for free right now. So go on my Twitter, you can find all that, and yeah.
Aatu has shown that he can hang at the NHL level in the sense that he's not a liability. He can take a regular shift. We know he's lead on faceoffs, but one thing that I've been wrestling with as far as whether or not he can develop into an everyday NHL player is this idea of what's his identity or role going to be? Because if you're vying for a bottom 6 spot and you're trying to make the case for a coach to not be able to pull you out of the lineup, there's got to be a calling card you have beyond just the faceoffs, that a coach looks at him and goes, can't take him out of the lineup. And whether it's, as a defensive specialist, whether it's, with the size maybe being harder to play against, providing some energy and physicality, or his offense maybe even taking the next level and being a bit more consistent there at the NHL level. That's kind of what I'm waiting for with Raty to really establish himself as a full-time NHL player. Do you think he can take that step? And what type of role or identity do you think suits him best if he is to become an everyday NHL player next season?
Yeah, it's a great question. And to be like, what you just asked is exactly what I've been asking for the past year as well. It's no secret that I've been wondering basically where Aatu fits. I know for a while there, everyone had him as this huge upside center, and everyone thought he was, the answer. And I've had my questions for over a year now, and it's not because I don't think he's a good player. I think he's a fantastic player, but I just don't know. Just like you mentioned, I don't know what he brings to the table that someone like Max Sasson cannot thrive. Max Sasson is a better skater, and Aatu works hard. That's one thing he's got going for him. He's always grinding, even though he's not the biggest guy out there. He's grinding. He's not shy away to be feisty, but so does Max Sasson. Neither of them are throwing big hits, but they're always on basically. So I think for Aatu, it's just a game of, he's a solid two-way guy. He doesn't stinge away from his defensive role, and he can kill penalties at times. And so I think really the big thing that he brings is that ability to win faceoffs. I mean, we saw it last night. What it was, he 8 for 9 on the faceoff dot. He's firing around a 55% clip at the AHL. So I think faceoffs, as much as I hate to say that's the one thing that sets him apart, I think that is something that sets him apart. And it's not a small thing either. Like, depending on whatever side it is, he could be put in those positions to win those big faceoffs. So basically, I know it's not the greatest answer, but that's kind of what I'm looking for too, and trying to decide is what he brings that's going to put him in. I still think he's a solid bottom six, two-way specialist, kind of, defensive role, penalty killing guy, but we're still waiting on that answer.
Dave, we got a lot of questions in the chat from listeners. I want to ask you about Manny Malhotra, friend of the show. We love Manny Malhotra on this show, but like half the Canucks NHL team right now is guys who have played for Manny Malhotra this year. What can you say about him as a coach? And this one's from Arvin in the chat, who wants you to talk about the synergy between the two teams playing the same systems and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, Manny, first and foremost, Manny's just such a great person. You could just tell instantly from the moment that he came on. I remember interviewing him at development camp, and you can just tell that he really wants to take the time and put in the work, and just, I don't know, he just seems like a player's coach, and he just seems like a really good person on the side. So it's been great. I think you could tell early on that some of the players, especially some of the players that were playing for Colleton last season, you could tell that the systems, they were working through the motions, really trying to figure it out, but they've figured it out this past half the season. You can tell that they're working the way that he wants to play, and it's worked out. I mean, and it just shows the way that all these players, we've seen, what, 5, 6, 4, how many, I've lost count of how many players we've seen come up from Abbotsford and play, and they fit in seamlessly, right? And so I think Manny Malhotra has to be given a lot of flowers for his job this year, and who knows? He might not be Abbotsford's coach for very much longer. Like he might get a nice look in Vancouver. And I think personally, that was probably the game plan from day one. And they seem like a system that really wants to work within. And I think the whole game plan is to get Manny up eventually. That's just my opinion. But
this one from Ty's Hockey Talk. Question for Dave: growing up playing hockey with Stankoven, I knew he was going to be that guy and thought he was a steal in the second round. Where did you have him on your draft board in 2021?
Great question. So I don't do personal, person by, I do pick for pick. I do kind of tiers, just because I'm not doing full on draft shows and all that stuff. So I don't have a full on draft board, but I do have my tiers. And what I can tell you is I thought Stankoven was going to be gone before Vancouver. I thought I had him very late first, early second. But I'm biased with a guy like Stankoven. A player like Stankoven with his type of just dog on a bone, a little bit of a smaller, bit of an FU mentality. I'm a sucker for those type of players. So I like Stankoven's game a lot. And plus he had all that skill in the world to kind of go, but you got to love the guy who just doesn't quit, has that motor that just, he just go. So I had him late first, early second, more so in the early second, but I was on him. I was really, when he was available and the Canucks were drafting, I thought for sure it was going to be Stankoven. And of course he goes a couple picks later and the rest is history, but
didn't we all?
Yeah.
Super chat here, and it's a question for you, which is great, so it's topical. It's a super chat, which means it's a donation to the BC Mental Health Foundation. It is a $6.99 donation to the BC Mental Health Foundations. All of our proceeds from our super chat are going to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Dave, the question for you is, do you follow any teams outside of the organization? Could there be anyone ripe for an offer sheet that could fill the Canucks needs? You can use a lifeline if you want, because I told Harmon to start looking at our offer sheets, but do you have anyone in mind?
I would love to use a lifeline on this, just because I would like to spark up a conversation. It's a good question. I haven't really there's so much going on. I've got the NCAA prospects now. I got draft coming up. I haven't really thought too much about the offer sheet. So I'd love to get in on the conversation and kind of use a lifeline on this one.
Mason McTavish.
Oh, yes.
That's the name to beat, because he's obviously going to get matched. But Harmon, who do you have in mind?
We went through this a week and a half ago.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
yeah, what did we say?
I didn't have a. You were trying to convince me on Gabe Velarde, and I was like, no, please.
No, I switched to Mason McTavish.
It'll never happen, which is why it sucks. But don't tease me with that one, because Mason McTavish would be a phenomenal fit. There's nothing to not like about Mason McTavish's game.
Who else is available? I don't want to do this with Dave on here, but look, man, I really do think offer sheets are going to be such a big part of this offseason. And ultimately, the thing is, Anaheim's a bad example with Mason McTavish because I think they would match
They'll just match.
anything. They'll just match anything. But the idea that any team with cap space is just going to match, it's like, I don't think that's accurate because like the Edmonton Oilers had cap space to match Holloway last year, but they were like, no, that's higher than we want to pay. So they let him walk. So this idea that, oh, if they have any cap space, they'll match it. I don't like that as an argument, but with McTavish, it goes beyond just the Ducks have cap space. He's a big part of that Ducks team, and they
Look
really
how
like
that Dylan Holloway one's turned out for Edmonton too. Oof.
yeah, and I
That's a
think
big fight.
honestly, I think teams are really going to start to utilize offer sheets. They're going to get ready to use those this offseason. I'd love to see the Canucks be a part of that. Dave, final one from me. Wait, what was it that I was going to ask you? Oh yeah, I have to admit, unfortunately, the reason you're on today is because I thought the Canucks were going to lose last night, and I was getting ready to do our eulogy episode where we start to look ahead to the draft. That's on hold. Instead, we get to talk about Jonathan Lekkerimäki, and this was a lot of fun. But the last thing I have for you is tell me about these centers that are in the middle of the first round there, because there's one named Jake O'Brien who, based on height alone and point totals, I really like. Tell me about the centers available in this draft in the middle.
Well, yeah, and I will have an article up soon with Canucks Army. Like now, we definitely shift focus towards draft picks, and you read my mind. Jake O'Brien is on my top of the list just based on where they're probably likely going to pick, somewhere between, I don't know, probably. I don't know. I guess it's all up in the air right now. But Jake O'Brien, if he's available, I think he's definitely the pick for various reasons. Like you said, he's 6'2". He's a little bit on the slighter side, but he's still so young that he's one of those wild cards that if he can gain 25 pounds in the next couple of years, like he could in theory be the best pick of that 10 to 20 range. To be honest, I don't even think he'll slide to 20, but he's one of the best playmakers in the entire draft class. So, if he can get that 25 pound push in the next couple of years, like he has a real solid potential. Right shot center as well. In drafts, I'm typically always best player available. That's typically my motto. You figure it out later. But in this year's case, I think the Canucks have to push for a forward and preferably a right shot center. Like the cupboards are barren, so that's one of my guys. If not him, Caleb Dionne. My Montreal family is gonna grill me on that one. But I think he's sort of like O'Brien. He's one on the taller side, but still has some filling out to do. But he's a physical specimen. He's just a competitive guy that's just all over the ice. So I think Dionne is definitely a name. And then honestly, Braden Coots out of Seattle Thunderbirds. I also think he's just a real fun guy that I think fans would have a real nice time with. Also a right shot center. So I think those are the three that I'd probably be targeting first and foremost for the Canucks. Of course, if you have to go defense, Keyshawn Aitchison is also a player out of the Barrie Colts, who obviously play with Riley Patterson and Anthony Romani. He's just a nasty defenseman who has been putting up points. So those are the four names that I'd be targeting for the Canucks. Definitely the center, the right shot center is the go-to though. Jake O'Brien, he's the number one for sure.
Love it. Jake O'Brien. My guy, officially.
He's tall.
My guy. He's tall. He is tall. I bet he can stop. Dave, thanks so much for doing this, man. We appreciate it, and we will chat with you soon.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Have a good day.